Welcome to the UKOCR Community Podcast, presented by Obstacle Racing Media. Each episode, we'll be talking to race directors, elite runners, weekend warriors, and frankly, anyone else from the UKOCR scene that will talk to us. Here is your host, Alan, aka Muddy Duck.
Anywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody scene is bloody sad. The bloody news is bloody bad. Bloody.
Greetings, friends, acquaintances, and anyone who just happens to be listening. Welcome to another edition of the UKOCR podcast. Now, if you've been following the UKOCR podcast for a while, you will have listened to the Swift Art that came out last Friday, and you would have heard of my trials and tribulations with my email address. And because of that, I haven't actually managed to set up a recording for this week because all my emails went. And I set it all up on emails, so I'm now back. You'd be pleased to know that I am now back with emails, so you can still contact us now at admin@ukocr.com. Big thanks to Alex Hamilton for that, Alexander Hamilton for fixing all that for me. Much appreciated. So we're back on with emails again, which means I can set up more and more interviews, and I'm already on the ball with it. So I'm going to apologise, but we are going to go back in time today. We're going to go back in time, and I'm going to put 3 clips up. So we're going to have Dave Peters from Rumble Fitness, and I thought we'd go back and listen to a bit of Mark Dickson, you know, world champion and all of that lot. So yeah, a bit of Mark Dickson, because I know you're missing him from the UKOCR team and that. And then a good friend of mine, Michelle Carney, who's a Patreon as well. We're going to go back to her podcast and listen to a bit of that one as well. So I've got about 15-20 minutes of each one for you. If you want to go back, you can then listen to them if you like them. But I just thought we'd mix it up a little bit this week with me not being able to set up interviews and get my emails sorted and that. So, like I say, I do apologise. We'll be back to normal next week, but I didn't want to give you a week without one. So, here we go. Let's kick off.
It does. I mean, our listeners can't see, but at this moment in time, you've got your Kuma vest on and you're looking very brown and very tan there.
There's a red face to go with the training from this evening, but yeah, I'm a little bit tanned up. Yeah, I'm lucky to be blessed with skin that goes all right, so I'm okay.
I just go bright red, like literally, the drumstick lollies of red and white. That's just me to start with. I go brown later, but red and white to start with.
Yeah, no, I'm blessed. I'm lucky, really.
I'm going to start off this podcast today to talk about you because I found when I was researching you and when my researcher was looking at you, we found an amazing fact. So I'm going to take you back to 2016 in particular. So November 19, 2016, UKOCR Facebook group, there's a post on there.
Yeah.
The rig at the champs today has come in for some criticism. Not sure whether it's justified or not. However, I completed all obstacles at first go. How good's that?
Yeah.
So 2016, we're taking you back to there. So let's talk about the UK champs back then. It was under the UKOCR banner and that, that rig. What did you think to it?
It's probably similar to most other people. I guess when you look at everyone's looking at it in hindsight now, aren't they? Really looking back at it, and I think if you did it and you managed to get through, you probably loved it. It's probably that moment when you think, oh yeah, it's fantastic. It was a step in, but in reality, if you really look back, I think at that time, I don't want to say it was the wrong sort of rig, because actually what that's done is it's made us have a big step up, hasn't it, in terms of what everyone's doing now with training and preparing for races as well. So I think whilst it was kind of maybe not ideal at the time for what we were doing in this country, it was definitely something that changed the community's sort of attitude towards training. So, and the fact that the people that kind of generalize anyway, when I talk about it, the people that managed to get through it, they were the people that kind of paid a lot more attention to their technique or their strength conditioning training, as well as their sort of running and practice, so to speak. So me personally, at the time, I liked it, but I could understand the frustration that was with it. And I think, yeah, it was maybe too much for the scene that we had at the time. But yeah, I mean, when I look back here, there's obviously fond memories having got through it. So it's, yeah, I guess it's a funny one to think back to.
When you actually reached it, because you'd not long since come out of water and everything, you got to this rig. Did you realise how tough it was going to be for the rest of the thing, or did you just think, you just attacked it as normal, you got through it, you thought, oh, that's pretty tough, but I got through it? Or did you realise how tough it was going to be?
I got an idea because when I got there, I was running in age group. So when I got there, you could already start to see the beginnings of queues that were starting to build. It wasn't like it got huge, didn't it? The queues were massive by the end of it. But when I got there was a few sort of, you could see a lot of people drop in halfway and then a lot of people in the queue already. And that was the moment where I sort of thought maybe, yeah, okay, this is going to be a tough rig. But the thing that helped me was when I came up to it, the marshal who was there at the time, and I can't remember who it was exactly, but the marshal who was there at the time was saying, sort of stood there at the time shouting to me as I was running up towards it. And she said, this is the lane that you're going to be using. There's these 2 lanes here. The idea is you go across it, ring the bell at the end without touching the ground. She said, when you fail, this is the line that you go to. And I think in my head, it was the bone idle sort of stubbornness in me, which was like, when I fail, I was like, okay, this is how it's been going. And that was when I realized, all right, this is probably going to be a tough one. So yeah, it was, maybe it was the marshal that got me through that rig. I remember at the end of it, actually, I think if you watch the video at the end of it, I'm really sort of, I'm at the end of my strength. I'm hanging on for dear life on the last little bit. And I managed to just get to the bell, obviously. But yeah, I think that was when I realized. And then as I came through and I hit the bell, that was the moment when you sort of realized, yeah, this is going to cause problems, because you can see the amount of people that you can hear ringing a bell. It was like, well, it was non-existent at the time. And then obviously seeing the queues getting bigger and bigger and hearing the marshal say stuff like that, you know that people have been having problems with it. So yeah, it was only really when you sort of rang that bell and you look back and you think, actually, yeah, this is an achievement. And believe it or not, I managed to run about a 5-minute mile from that point until the rest of the course, because you suddenly realise you're doing quite well for yourself and you maybe not need to start pushing. So yeah, I got an injection of pace out of somewhere. I don't know where I managed to find it, but I did. Yeah.
What position was you in when you reached it?
I think I was with Robin. I don't know where numbers exactly. I was with Robin and another guy. I can't remember. He was a Polish guy, but there was 3 or 4 of us all got there together. We was probably running about 8th or 9th in age group, and then obviously hitting the rig and knowing that there was at least 3 of them that had dropped. So you think, well, okay, this is done. This has pushed me up quite high. So that's why you work quite hard. I think I came through in 4th in the end. And funnily enough, I think out of I don't know how many it was, 9, 10, whatever, 15 people who made it, I think my entire age group all managed to get through for the top. I think 5 out of the top 10 were in my age category, which was sod's law, right? But yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, I managed to come through. I think I came 4th in the end. So yeah, it wasn't so bad. But yeah, tough age group running. It was the days 30-year-old running then, and it's quite competitive, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a massive achievement to get past it. I mean, I think I read somewhere it was like an 82% fail rate, and that's huge on an obstacle. Whatever obstacle it is, an 82% fail rate is absolutely massive. So yeah. I mean, a massive well done on that. You said you was training beforehand on these. Was you training on rigs that's at your gym at Rumble Fitness?
So we'd literally just started really. So in terms of sort of doing rigs and stuff, we'd been around for about, I think at that stage, probably about 6 months. And we had this tiny little square rig that we were working on. And we just started doing the basics. So using ropes, using rings, just spending some time in our hands. And we just started working on this rig that we had, which was it's about 3 meters square. So it wasn't a huge thing, but we kept going from corner to corner. So we just got used to this habit of just being on the rigs for longer. And then again, I think in that post I wrote it as well. All I did on that rig was lock the rope, swing to the rings, swing to the bar, lock the rope, and just keep skipping over everything. And I think back then, people weren't really used to skipping things on rigs. Everyone sort of looked at it and thought you had to hold it. It was just how it was done back then. So yeah, we'd managed to spend probably 6 months of worth of training, sort of technique and strength conditioning, more specific to obstacles like that. So we were lucky really. And I'd been to the European, the first one was that year, wasn't it? 2016, I think it was, over in Holland. And I managed to keep my band there, but that was a huge eye opener to what difference we had in the UK compared to what was going on in Europe. And I think if I hadn't have been to Europe and experienced how hard that was, I maybe wouldn't have done that training. I maybe wouldn't have even got the rig up as we did to actually do the training. So I was kind of fortunate, I suppose, that I'd been there, had the experience at the Europeans that I had. And then, yeah, but up till then, it was the usual stuff, it was gym work, pull-ups, chin-ups, hanging on bars, that kind of stuff. So it was only just before that championships that I'd got onto ropes and stuff, but it definitely paid off because, yeah, like I say, that not that many people managed to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, you put five tips on there, and they're really good tips, and they should still be used today.
Yeah.
The first one, use your momentum to create flow through the sections. I think that's something that I've always been good at when I've been doing rings, is creating that that momentum, as in create that swing, make sure that, if you're
it.
swinging, you're going backwards, and in the next grip, you actually just take your momentum forward, let it come back, and then go again.
Yeah, that's it.
The foot lock. Yeah, if you've got a rope, use the foot lock. Always lock your feet out. Don't just grip it. That is the thing. But I like the next one. Plan your route before you set up and stay relaxed throughout the movement.
Yeah,
you do see a lot of people, don't you, who try and grip something so strong, and holding on there, and and they lose momentum. They're now stuck there, or they're swinging, and instead of moving on that first swing, the weight. And then the weight again, and then the weight again. And suddenly that swing goes from a 2-meter swing down to like a 6-inch swing.
That's it,
and the car stopped moving.
Yeah. You've seen it every race with a rig, and it's everyone, right? Everyone does it. It's understandable. I mean, I still do it now, even with the guys who I train regularly, those guys who are really conditioned to it. You all see me at races, and I won't be shouting to them what to do. They know what to do. But what you will hear me shout to them is breathe. Just relax and breathe, because the amount of people that are on rigs, they just hold, everything's tense, everything's tight, and breathing's all gone, and you can't feed the muscles without oxygen, right? So
too right. Yeah, but no, it's great. I mean, the other two is skip as many items as you can. Yeah, makes sense, that. And I do like the last one, though. If you have to use an unusual item, like the end of the rig, use 2 hands if you rather than 1 hand, if it's a strange shape. You can get both hands around it. Absolutely spot on. So great tips there for everyone who listens, and for anyone who's new to OCR, down to Rumble Fitness, and we'll come on to Rumble Fitness shortly, and that. So, talking about yourself, what was your first ever event that you actually went to? First ever OCR event? Where was this at?
First one, I'm pretty sure it was Nuts. It's about 2012, 2013, something like that. It was around that sort of time. Yeah, down to Nuts Challenge. Did it dressed as Noddy. And so
why haven't I found a picture of Noddy?
Oh mate, it's on there somewhere. Yeah, it's on there somewhere. So I was dressed up as Noddy. I had a partner in crime with me dressed as Big Ears, and it was the worst thing ever, because we were running in winter nuts, and I had a cotton jumper on, all absorbing all the water. I had plimsolls on. I didn't know what I was doing. I was all over the place. So yeah, I've been there and done the fun running thing as well. So that's how we started.
You're the guy that we all see on the start line, and we say, "Oh, look at him in the t-shirt with the Noddy hat on and his Adidas Gazelles."
That's exactly what it was. In fact, I remember running actually a second race after that. I did that. I did the nuts again in the September, and I decided that 1 lap wasn't enough, so I thought I'll go and try the 4 laps, of course, like everybody does back then. And that was when they had the cutoff, the 4-hour cutoff, before they changed it to the 6. And I turned up on the start line again with my partner in crime. We dressed as the Flash and the Green Lantern. We had these full morph suits on, nothing else, obviously going to freeze. And we stood on the start line. It was really funny because everyone there on the start line at the time was all either like vest, shirt off, everything, all 6-packs ripped out. And then you got me and my mate and the Green Lantern and the Flash waiting to start the same race. And you saw them on the line going, these guys have not got a clue what they're about to enter into. And that was hell on earth for a long time. So it was definitely an eye-opener, Nuts. I would give it that much, yeah.
And did you make the 4 laps?
Not that time, I think, or it might have been that time we made it. And there was, I know the first time I attempted 4, I didn't. No, I got to 2 laps, and it was the case of knowing that I had like an hour to make the last lap, knowing full well that my last 2 laps were over an hour and it was never going to happen. So I never went out on the 3rd because I knew I wasn't going to make the cutoff. But it was, it was that hypothermia thing, you know what I mean? Like, last thing you want to do is go out again. So yeah, I didn't make it. And that happened to me a couple of times at Nuts at different stages in the racing down there as well. It's one of those races that just sort of catches you out if you get it wrong, isn't it?
So there you go. That's me and Dave Peters. That's the start of that podcast. And I thought, after Dave Peters, and we just talked about Nuts there, what better to flip into Mark Dickson? Yeah, Mark Dickson used to be Team Nuts. Here is. There's a little excerpt from our podcast that we chatted.
Because Wayne comes from the Paras,
Wayne's
from
a
that
para,
side.
yeah, he's an old war dog, basically. If you describe Wayne, he's an old war dog. He's only happy when he's arguing with someone. And he's he's great, Wayne. He is a real character.
It's brilliant, and it shines through. The course that shines through. That background that he's had really shines through on the course. The obstacles are built. It's just like running an army assault course. It really is in that middle section. Yeah. The ditches, the constant ditches. The where you go in the water in the tunnel, and then all the scaffolding obstacles and the swing. the fireman's lift. The best obstacle I think he's got down there, and not a lot of people will agree with me, is one of the toughest, which is the barrels that you come out of the water, and where you go up with the rope, so they're like the metal tubes.
Oh yeah, yes, they are. They're horrendous. Especially, I've only done. Well, it's going to come out. I've only ever done one lap of winter nuts as well. So, and winter nuts it's a different game going up there because the water's higher and everything. That's hard. It's a big difference.
The first time I did that obstacle, it was winter nuts, and you actually had to go under the water to get into the barrel.
Last year's one, it was one of the wettest that we've had it wasn't one of the coldest, but it was one of the wettest. And it was so different to what I'm used to the summer nuts.
Yeah, it's a massively different course, summer nuts and winter nuts. I've been down, done both. And some of the other obstacles, I love the nutcracker, and that tyre climb, the tyre chimneys up to the top of it.
That's fun in training, because in training we tend to do like pick 5 obstacles and just do circuits. And if someone picks that one, there's a sprint to get there first, because usually water build up. So if someone's behind you, you give it a little kick and give them a soaking. So that's quite a fun one on the training night, because we're Team Nuts is it's a fun team. I'm competitive, but I don't take myself seriously. The whole team's sort of based about having a laugh and a giggle. We train hard, but we're not a race team. It's like sort of like some of the other ones, like Musical Machines and Nuclear Phoenix, and they're race teams. Just we have everyone. Absolutely, we've got such a range that little bits like that are the fun.
It's quite a big team, isn't it? How many's in it?
Last time I looked, I think it's about 50 or 60.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's a big team. Because that's what I said. A lot of the other teams they streamline them to have just like the top level athletes and stuff like that. Whereas I don't think we haven't really got anyone you consider an athlete. So it's we're just fun runners. Some of us are competitive. Don't get me wrong, and we do well in the races. But obviously, we're not labelled as the same as the others.
I think from my point of view, I see Nuts as both. You're right. I see Nuts as both a competitive. I see Nuclear Phoenix and the Musical Machines as very competitive. There's a few others out there. You look at the Spartan, Team Spartan. You always think that's competitive, and I know it's not all competitive. Some of them are a little bit more fun. Well,
they only said they don't really turn up for anything other than Spartan. To be fair, that little lot. So Rumble Fitness are doing really well. They've got a really good team coming through, and
Dave Peters is really growing into with his.
Yeah, he's very passionate. He's doing great stuff with the youngsters as well, trying to get the youngsters into the sport, not just into it for fun, but actually get some decent sports stars. So like when in 10 years' time, things like the OCR series, which I've been to, is brilliant, but we're not really competing at the top level. So in a few years' time, people Dave through. We can have both. We can have the fun runners and the competition.
Yeah, we've seen this for a while, haven't we? On the world circuit, that we've got probably we have got the number one in the world from the UK in John Alban, but then there's a big gap to to our other top racers.
Well, the Euros, we had Tom Tweddle finish 5th, which was amazing. Apart from that, no one else anywhere that you can speak of really. And the Euros is like a federated event. Obviously, you got the Venturi Worlds, same thing. I think we didn't have anyone in the top 10 either side, apart from obviously John, which is just a machine, man, isn't he? He really is.
It's getting better though. I mean, where he lives now, he just walks out of his house and is in his altitude training, isn't he? It's like.
If you follow him, I remember you saying before you don't really follow Strava, but if you have a look at his Strava, it's ridiculous. It's either if he's not running, he's Nordic skiing across mountains for like 50 miles straight up the top. So yeah, his engine's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, I mean, he is I've raced. Not raced against him. I've been in the same race as him several times, and usually watch him run off into the distance. Even when I was half decent, he was gone. He was vanishing, and that. But I mean, we talk quite a lot that there isn't that progression, which I think is great, and especially after speaking to Emma the other week about the progression that they're trying to fetch through with the OCR boys and girls, and with
Yeah.
Dave Peters at Rumble.
Yeah, I was listening to that about the OCR boys and girls. It's good. It's I think because it's always just been basically about just the fun of the OCR. That's why I got into it as well. And it's sort of a little bit frowned upon if you want to compete and you want to do well. It's a lot of people at some point start to moan saying you're ruining an OCR by making it too competitive. I think that's sort of held it back, and that's why we're losing some of the top guys. Like Conor Hancock doesn't do it anymore, does he? He was
No, Connor's gone on to other things now. I think he still trains as though he's going to do OCR, but he's doing a lot more adventure things now.
Yeah, it was sort of frowned upon trying to be an elite sort of thing. So hopefully they can find a market for both.
There's no sponsorship for them in the UK at this moment in time. You know,
nothing.
Jonathan's been quite lucky. He's got some good sponsorships behind him. I know Connor was sponsored by Kit Bricks and that, but he was also struggling to get other sponsorships, so he's had to go elsewhere. Because to become a top athlete, you can't hold down a day job and then go and train part time. You need to be training, constantly.
It's hard. Obviously, even just for fun runners like us, trying to finish work. Sometimes you don't get into late, and you've got a hill session planned. You've got dinner about to be served. You've got stuff to do. It's so hard to fit it all in.
And then you've got people like me pestering you to do a podcast.
That's right.
And you've had an even a busier month over the last 2 months, because you've built this whole course, but you've built a lot of new obstacles down at Nuts for the time trial. Let's talk about that a little bit. So how did that come about?
Well, I've always got down there. Wayne's let me have free rein in the training area for the last couple of years, and I go down, I build up rigs and stuff, and training nights we have little challenges and stuff like that. And last year I built a time trial course about what we had, like the things that were there, and it went down pretty well when we've done the UKOCR time trials. People seem to like the course. And I've always done sort of little bits for the team down there, like build different rigs and change it up. Just because it's fun. I like something different myself. And then this year, because we've had down south, I don't know if you've had up there, an ash disease on the trees. So a lot of knockdowns and a lot of nuts. You won't recognise a lot of the nuts, but a lot of trees have had to come down because of ash disease. So they've had to take stuff away. And while as we building it, I was talking to Wayne. He said about a time trial course. I said it'd be much better if we can actually have a designed one. So you've got a route rather than a back forward. So you've got a circuit. So he said, right, you do me a plan and we'll see what we can do. And so I sort of basically drew up of what I thought we'd have in an OCR. Like, because I've been to the OCR series, I've done the Euro as well. So I've got a little bit of an idea of what flows and how it works. Done the drawings. And they've come up with some absolutely brilliant structures. I don't know if you've seen, instead of using all bits of scaffold, they've been nuts and Wayne and using the logs that are there, they've sunk trees into the ground as the main frame. So it's just, they put the frame in and I'll put the scaffold bars where I want and then add the attachments. So they built to spec. And then Jane Anderson built, I said I wanted a weaver. So she's built a huge big weaver by the end of it. And it's sort of, come along really well.
It looked really good. I was watching the videos over the weekend, and it looked absolutely amazing.
The flow, I was so pleased. I to be fair, the idea was I love to race. I said I'm not an athlete, but I'm very competitive. I can't even do a park run without trying to win it. I have to do it. I do road to world at Scotty's place. I've done it for a few years and been coached by Tony and Scotty to stop me being a loon on the start line and stuff like that. But I'm just competitive. I love to race. I love that feeling of beating someone or racing against. So win or lose, as long as it's a battle to the end. So the whole idea was to set up 2 lanes where it's literally just you against them, and you can go all the way around. And watching it the weekend, I really enjoyed it because some of the battles there was literally going like that all the way through to the end. It went down to the last obstacle, last attachment on so many things. It was such good fun to watch.
It was really, really good. Well, where did the format come from? Because for anyone who doesn't know, this is a gender neutral event. We're going to call it a gender neutral event, and it was based purely on, did you run the course of time trial first, and that put you into a division?
Yeah, basically everyone done a time trial, and then it was on a leaderboard of time trial. So it's quite a simple way to work out. It didn't come across well because obviously I'm not PR ready, and so I'm no good at putting it across. So it got all over the place. But your times are all on the board. So I grabbed the top 8, next 8, next 8, next 8. So you go in a cup, a good old fashioned FA Cup, and you get drawn out of balls at the sack, draw them out. You'll play 1 versus 2 and things like that. That was it. And then you race. And the top 8, I think there's 25 seconds between first and 8th on a time trial. So they're all tight. And if it weren't much more on each of the groups. So in theory, my theory when I put it down was it worked, but it kind of got slaughtered. And I thought, and I've nearly changed it before. I'm not going to change it because where did the idea come about mixing it all up? When we train, we got girls like Sam Rippington at Nuts will beat a lot of the boys. But if just in our team, if we just done it age groups like vets, seniors, ladies, and all the rest of it, there's no competition because it's such a gulf. So I thought this way, you're going to have someone that's the same time rather than just there. Because no one wants to watch a race that's over to start with there. It's like watching the Formula One recently. Well, the car's too good.
There's an even a better example of that. Did you watch the Hildevart that Obstacle Race Media put on, the race in America?
No. I started to, but it's so long-winded getting involved in it. I got bored and turned it off. I've not got a great attention span.
Well, I mean, let's just take the final of that. So the men's final was VJ and I think it was Ryan, if I remember right, or was it Hunter? There was 2 races. VJ won it in the end, but that was filmed, so that was head-to-head as well, along a course. Slightly different because it was on a public beach and there was a few beach balls bouncing around, but it was still head-to-head. Yeah. There was actually beach balls. But VJ took a lead after about obstacle 5 and it became unassailable. So it wasn't exciting. You were just watching a runner running over obstacles. But I watched the feed from yours and you actually had 2 runners, literally. I mean, I watched the Ramonis and Samantha one, and they swapped places over so many obstacles and so many sections. Yeah, it was super close.
And that's just that one. There was other ones. It was going down to the very last touch on the belt. It really did. And it was mixes. We had Lil Wally, a 12-year-old. He knocked out Jason Marlum, I think, who's international. He's been to 3 or 4 Europeans, but 3 or 4 world championships, bags and bags of experience. But the young lad beat him. And then you had girls beating Spartan champions, like this is age group champions, getting beaten. You had Chris Shipley, who's won nuts. He got a great athlete. He got beaten by Sam in the semi because it was just literally come down to the very similar under the pressure.
Yeah.
It worked. I could have. I said to you last week, didn't I? I said you might not want to talk to me if it all goes wrong. I said I was stuck with it where everyone's not really. Dave Peters backed me a hell of a lot with this. It really did, and a good few others. But it could have gone wrong, but it went really well. Really enjoyed it myself.
It could have. I think you couldn't have asked for nothing better in the results though, because you had 2 men and 2 women. Win categories. So it was 2 men won Division 1 and 2, and then 2 women won Division 3 and 4. You couldn't have asked for no better than that.
We had a marshals vote as well, and it was basically the prize was given. They put up a 1-to-1 training day, and it was all the marshals had to vote what was the best battling win, not the total victory, but they won a race by a pure battle, like coming from behind the whole way through. And there was 2 girls were above everyone else on that. Sam Rippington and Louise Berryman. Sam had 1 more vote because they're just that sheer battle of it. It was. I must admit, I don't do rewarding losers, so you didn't get it if you lost the race. You only got it if you battled to the win.
Yeah,
and it was really good. Some of some of the attitudes was spot on. They really wanted it. It's great.
It does sound like, and and what people have told me, personally, and that it does sound like it worked. And I guess it worked because it was a race for racers. Would that be fair to say that it was a race for racers?
It's a race for racers, but we did have some people turn up that just wanted to experience it, and there's nothing wrong with that. There was a couple of guys that have never done it before. They've just been a couple of training places, and they loved it. And we had a few times of 17 minutes, whereas the top was like 4 minutes. So it wasn't just. It is. You're not gonna. It's not a fun run. You're not going to turn up there and not try. What I said in the briefing before was we're all at different stages because of stuff anyway. Some people haven't been training. It doesn't mean you've got top class people that haven't been training. So it's literally give it your best. Your best is where you are, and then you're racing at your best. So, and that's pretty much how it worked. Because some of the people, like James Burton, his time trial was pretty slow, and he was in the second group. He's an age group world champion.
Yeah.
So obviously his training is not up there, but he gave it his best. Got fairly beaten, and it sort of. Well, I think PT Barn are going to look to do a race there as well, and I think Jack Carpenter up at his place in Philfit in Ipswich are looking to do something similar as well. So,
as in a head-to-head, like what you did, or
the same sort of thing, because just to get some racing, basically, get a good experience for when.
Well, you will hear me talk about this on the Swift Half. So when this goes out, I talked about it. To me, we now need to. OCR needs to grow, and it's got natural growth. We've had natural growth all the way along. We've had a little bit of attrition recently, with races going and that. But the next level of growth is through media such as podcasts like this, and through actual video in events like that are exciting. The first one I ever went to, the most exciting OCR I've ever been to, was Urban Attack, which was in Manchester on a BMX track indoors with, I think it only had 10 obstacles, and none of them were really technical. There was some monkey bars, there was a wall, but it was 8 people head to head running very much like yours was.
So that was me and Mark Dickson having a little chat there. Let's jump into the final one, Michelle Carney. If you know Michelle, she does a lot of the voiceovers on some of our podcasts and that, the intros and the adverts and that. So yeah, she's a great friend of mine. Here's one from her podcast.
Europe's, I was running across the field with my friend Gareth, and there was this almighty clunk followed by a big groan from me. And Gaz was like, "Oh my God, what was that?" I'm like, "That was my pelvis dislocating itself."
Oh no!
He's like, "Oh my God, are we going back to pits?" I'm like, "No, I'm halfway around the lap. I'm finishing it." So I staggered back, finished the lap, got back to the pit, got my daughter to help manipulate it back in as much as I could. I went back out, carried on. I got to a certain point of well, I'll just test it and see what it feels like and see how I get on. And I got to the point of, well, I can't run on uneven ground, but I can run on the flat surfaces and I can walk the uneven bits, and the pain's not getting any worse. So I may as well carry on. So I did 35 miles in total, the majority of which were on a slightly displaced pelvis.
Wow, that's scary. That I'd have been straight on the phone to the ambulance. I'd have had an air ambulance coming in me. I'd have been going to local houses saying, "Put your big light on because air ambulance is coming." They need to see where they need to land.
I am very much run, walk, or crawl. If I have to crawl it, I'm doing it. I said all along, unless I break something severe or I die, I'm carrying on. I don't think anybody believed me until that moment.
Oh, and if you'd not already won the Grit Award, that you should have won it just purely for that, for doing 35 miles with a dislocated pelvis. And then World's Toughest Mudder, 50 miles. What was that like?
Yep. So that one was done back when we were back fully in lockdown, and you were only able to see one other person. When we did the virtual Europes, we were allowed up to groups of 6. So I had a few people come over to mine and we all did it together. But this one, you were only allowed one other person. So Chris Torrance came over. He wasn't allowed in my house. So we set up a pit. I'm very lucky to live on a private road, so I didn't need council permission. But we set him up a little pit right outside my garden so that he could pit without breaking any COVID restrictions. I arranged with my local town council that they would give us a key to the public toilets so that if he needed to go to the toilets, he could do that as well. And me and Chris did the 24 hours and just literally we just kept moving for the full 24 hours. He pitted outside my garden. I pitted in my garage. My kids took turns to stay up all night and pit for us. And yeah, we ended up getting 50 miles.
Wow, that's cool. So is that what drove you on to do the whole Unholy Grail then and ETM for real this year?
I'd actually signed up already. I'd signed up to do it in 2020 to do ETM. A couple of my friends had done it back in 2019. I'm like, why not? Let's get a crack. Let's see what I can do. So this year's was actually a deferral to 2020s. And I had no idea how I would get on. I had no idea how my lungs would hold up. But I just kept telling myself, well, do you know what? You did virtual Europes, you did virtual Worlds. They were after COVID as well. You survived those. So I was under no illusions. I knew it was going to be harder because it was real obstacles, not pretend ones. But I was determined I was getting those 25 miles and getting my own Holy Grail.
And how many miles did you actually manage to do? Because the course was a little bit longer. So did you do 5 laps
Yes.
or did you?
Well, in my head, I'd committed I was doing 5 laps because 5 laps was 25 miles. I came in at the end of my 4th lap to be told by one of my pit crew, you've done it. They're crediting you the extra miles because the course is too long. You've got your 25 miles. You don't need to go back out. But I'd been pacing myself all night to make sure I'd got time to do 5 laps. So the poor guy in my pit, poor old Glenn, I literally bit his head off. I'm like, I came for 5 laps. I am doing 5 laps. So sure enough, I went back out, did my 5th lap and got 30 miles.
Yeah, wow. And where did you come in terms of your age category?
That one's a bit of a... So I didn't place in my age category. However, ETM was 10 days before my birthday. Had I have already had my birthday or had it been 2 weeks later, that would have pushed me up an age category. And I actually did 5 miles, so a lap more than the woman who won her age category.
Oh, so
I came so close.
Oh, Tough Mudder, why did you do it to them days? Did you not realise?
I was literally 2 weeks away from winning my age category. So, but be it. The woman who won that age category is a very good friend of mine. So no hard feelings at all. I was chuffed to bits for her. But she knows I'm coming for her next year.
And is the goal to go to Worlds as well?
I would absolutely love to go to Worlds. I'd love to be there this year, but as a single mum, obviously because of the circumstances with my ex, there is no co-parenting. It is just me. My girls are old enough to leave on their own, but I just can't justify to myself going to the States and leaving my girls behind. Obviously, they wouldn't want to come just for Worlds, so that would mean a holiday as well. So being over in the States, it just puts it out of my price bracket at the minute. If you are listening to TM and you fancy moving it out of the States to Europe anywhere, I will be there in a heartbeat. But at the moment, it's just slightly outside of my price bracket.
No, I get that. It's because it's a fair old trip over there, and you can't just go for 2 days, 3 days. You need to be over there a week before and a week after. Just a bit of acclimatization, get over the jet lag, and then.
I'm also one of these weird people where one of the main reasons why I want to go to Worlds is I want to do stacks. I know most people hate it, but I'm like, I want to do stacks. I just want to go to Worlds just so I can do stacks.
They need to fetch it over here, something like that, don't they? They need to fetch World's Toughest Mudder over here. Who knows? One day, maybe.
It would be amazing to have it in the UK. Maybe one day. I mean, I understand that they've probably got they've got a bigger client base effectively in America. So I understand why it's over there. but it would be amazing to have it over in Europe, even if it's not in the UK, somewhere else in Europe, maybe Germany or something like that. And if they did do it, I would absolutely go in a heartbeat. I would be there straight away.
Yeah, we sometimes forget that Tough Mudder is just not America and England, don't we? They have a massive following in Germany and in Europe, in the Scandinavian countries and that. So yeah, it'd be good to maybe go Europe.
And even in Ireland, because obviously Ireland's a separate franchise as well, isn't it? So even over in Ireland.
Well, if you don't know, Ireland's going.
Is it?
Oh.
Okay.
Is that
so
Ireland
isn't a franchise. I didn't know that.
Unless someone takes up the license, the people who've got it at the moment in time, I know them. So I know them who've got it, and they're relinquishing the franchise at this moment in time. So I think this year's going to be their last year over in Ireland, unless someone else takes it up. So
no,
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we didn't know the future of Tough Mudder UK. So
yeah,
who knows?
It'd be a shame to lose it. I don't like losing them or anything like that. So no.
I think that's been one of the big shames of lockdown is how many, not just OCR, but how many companies as a whole have folded. But it has had a massive impact on the OCR. There's so many companies where you see it's either going to be their last one or they've cancelled and they're not going to be anymore. It's been quite sad, really.
Yeah. As your Tough Mudder, well, I can't think of the word. Your love for Tough Mudder, has it rubbed off on your children?
It has on my youngest. So both of my children have done one. My eldest daughter, Brooke, kind of dragged herself along. She was like, I don't really want to do this. You know, typical Kevin teenager, I really don't want to do this. But she did it anyway and absolutely hated it. It's just not her. She's not an athletic kid. She don't like getting dirty. It just wasn't for her. My youngest, she did her first one with me back in 2019. She did Scotland when she was 14. She was only just 14 as well, so she was only just old enough to do it. Actually got hypothermia. She's very much like her mum, bless her. She was asked by the paramedics to stop. She was taken into the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a foil blanket, asked by them to stop. She turned to me. I've never been so proud of her. She turned to me and went, Mum, how far have we got to go? I'm like, 2 or 3 miles and 5 obstacles. And she just threw the foil blanket off, jumped out the back of the ambulance. She's like, I'm not stopping now. I've not come this far to fail. So me and my sister were virtually carrying her across the finish line, bless her. She was so cold. But it didn't put her off. She's been back and done a 5K and full since and intends on doing more next year.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it when kids follow in parents' footsteps in terms of the good parents' footsteps, shall we say?
Yeah,
and do things like that.
She enjoys it. She would have done more this season, but she works on a Saturday, and obviously a lot of them we have to travel to and we have to stay away, so it's just not been feasible for me to go and do the Saturday and Sunday, and her to just do the Sunday. So she's missed a lot of them this year that she would have otherwise done, bless her.
Wow. And outside Tough Mudder, have we done any other OCRs out there?
I've done a local one in Scunthorpe called the Normanby Hall Adventure Race. Which is basically over a horse cross-country track. You're going over the horses, fences and things. I've done that one a couple of times, and next weekend I am about to go to the dark side and try my first Spartan. And typical me, because I don't like to do things by halves, I'm going for a trifecta weekend.
Oh wow! So you're going sprint, super beast all over the weekend. Oh, that's amazing. That.
Yeah. So the lady who can't run and who has a knackered lung, what should we do? Yeah, let's just do a trifecta. It'll be fine. What's the worst that can happen?
Have you been practicing your burpees?
Again, I'm a bit weird. I kind of like burpees. Now, ask me that again after Spartan, and I'll probably tell you I hate burpees. But I actually don't mind burpees. So I'm under no illusions. I'm expecting to have to do quite a few. I've seen some of those obstacles. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing burpees on that one.
And what about, have you purchased a spear? Have you been practicing the spear throwing the broom handle at a wall or anything?
No, I was fairly good at javelin as a kid, so I'm hoping I've still got the technique. But I've seen some of their obstacles sneaking onto the TM City events. So things like Dong Dangler and things like that. I've seen those. So I've tried a couple of the Spartan equivalents that have made their way onto the city events.
Yeah, there's a little crossover there. That, you know, I think it's good that they've joined forces. It means there's more obstacles as well, especially, you know, when we look at Tough Mudder and we had Gauntlet at ETM, you know, that was straight out of Spartan's obstacle book. And it's amazing that those obstacles can be brought into a Tough Mudder that have never been there before.
Yeah, it's nice to see some of the changes on the obstacles. And they've more so been on the city events because obviously they can't necessarily dig down and make much of a mess. So they're more on rigs and things. So they've been using some of the Spartan rigs on the city events. Not as keen on their version of skid marked that they had at Morden Park. Much prefer TM's skid marked, but purely because it's harder to do it on your own. It promotes teamwork a lot more. Obviously, Spartan is every man for himself. So.
Not in the fun waves. It's not. It does bill itself as that. But trust me, when you're in them fun waves at Spartan, it is very, very similar to Tough Mudder. It's not as community. It's not the obstacles you don't have to help with. So people do them on themselves. But you will find that, you know, when you come into the walls and things like that, people are just as helpful and will help you up if you need it, or let you do it on your own, however you want. They are helpful as well, because that's just the community.
Well, there's a few of us mudders doing it. So you know, in the standard Tough Mudder spirit, they'll have fun trying to stop us helping each other. It's what we do.
Yeah, I understand you're going to be meeting a few people down there, that especially from Scotland, if my sources tell me right.
What do you mean?
Oh, I bet I've said too much now.
You know something I don't?
Shut it! Swift half next week, you might find out.
Do you know something I don't? Are Kevin Martin playing their tricks again?
I have no idea on that. My mouth is sealed.
Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to the Swift half now. You've done that on purpose just to make me listen to the Swift half from your arm onto you.
I have to get my listeners somehow. I have to get my listeners somehow.
It would be nice to see them there, so I hope they are there.
Cool. I can't say nothing. Shut up, Alan. I've let too much out now. So, Michelle, thanks for joining us. It's been a great chatting with you. Been great chatting with another Yorkshire person. At long last, I don't have to speak to that northerner, that one from across the border, that Ian who I have to speak to all the time.
Well, let's hope everybody can understand us. Let's hope we've not got two Yorkshire and that they can actually understand what we're saying.
Yeah, the Americans will have switched off Asia. They'll just be listening to the accent. They don't listen to what we've said. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, they can't get subtitles on podcasts, can they?
No. Well, thank you very much indeed, Michelle. You take care.
And you too.
Well, and there we go, guys and girls. Michelle Carney, double cancer survivor. Amazing story she's got, an absolute amazing story. Real pleasure talking to her. I've got to get myself now. I have to listen to that again. It got me when I first recorded it, and now it's just got me again. Anyway, let's get back to business. Don't forget, launching this week, the Obstacle Course Racing Award, the UK Obstacle Course Racing Awards 2021. First time we've ever put anything like this. Hope it's going to really succeed. Sponsored by UKOCR as well, which is absolutely amazing news. All going to come out today, which is Monday. You're going to find out how to nominate, how to vote and everything else. This week coming up, we have got Who's Hot, but it's not Who's Hot, because we're all hot out there in Spartan. So Wednesday you've got... Can we say this? Am I allowed to say this? The first place podcast people? How would I pronounce it? We've got Becky and Mark, who are the highest placed podcast hosts, the Spartan World Champs, which is great news. And Will Chung's on there as well, of course. Thanks, Will, for making this happen with us. And that's coming out Wednesday. Friday, you've got Swift Half with me and Ian, that northern bloke from other side of the border in Lancashire. We're recording Swift Half. Got loads to talk about, or hopefully got loads to talk about. Got a little bit on there at a minute. Don't forget, people,
Like Obstacle Racing Media, our producers of this podcast. Don't forget to follow us all on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Don't forget the YouTube TV, UKOCR TV account. Please follow us all on those. Click like, subscribe, and everything else. And until next time, people, you take care, and love you all, and we'll speak soon. Bye.